talk about some of the big stories that made headlines during the week. And of course, we bring in journalists to analyze some of these stories. And as usual, I'm your host. My name is Fidel Castro. Thank you so much for stopping by once again. You can always join this conversation. Always, all our platforms are up and running. You can drop your comments on all our platforms. And of course, you can join us live in the studio by just dropping your comments or questions on our WhatsApp portal. The number has not changed. It's the same, 0809-993-0137. Once again, 0809-993-0137. Yes, so many stories broke this week, like I said a while ago, but we're going to just go through some of them, and we shall be, looking at two major issues. We shall be talking about that surprise package that we got as Nigerians when we woke up to the realization that fuel price has increased again, dropping at 617 naira at NNPC fuel stations. Yes, there are disparities in the prices, but the bottom line is that it has increased from 5 whatever it was down to 617 at least. All right, we'll talk about that. And of course, we'll talk about the elusive ministerial list. Yes, there's been so many variations, bandied on social media. This is the list, that is the list. We will have some names and some portfolios, but we can tell you authoritatively that as at yesterday, Thursday, there was no ministerial list. But we'll talk about that and how that would affect the running of the economy. Once again, welcome. Fasten your seatbelts. This week, yes, it is trouble in paradise for the APC. We woke up to the fact that things were not really moving well with the APC, and that culminated with the emergence of Senator Abubakar Kyari as the acting national chairman of the APC. And he came out to say that after a meeting with the NWC, that's the National Working Committee of the party, he came out to say that the erstwhile national chairman, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and of course the national secretary, Yola Omishore, both former senators, they resigned voluntarily, and that there was no issue of misappropriation of funds as widely reported. None of that, but they just resigned voluntarily. That was a big story this week. Of course, the FCTA coming out to warn residents with criminal tendencies in Abuja. So you are a criminal and intending criminal, you need to move somewhere. Yeah, that one really strong. But there was this very touching story that happened in Sakot, where a 2-year-old boy was killed by 2 family dogs somewhere around Eche local government area of the state. They've been buried. Man, now this was happened when the parents had gone to work. His 12-year-old son, had opened the gate, to feed the dog, and that was how the dogs went haywire and, devoured the child. That's a really sad story coming in. And of course, I think the parents should have, ask an older person to have done that, because these dogs can be erratic. So that was what happened. Very sad story there. And some of the reasons, yes, we talked about the increase in fuel price from 537 to 617 at least. And of course, the NPC executive CEO, GMD Melikari, he actually was in the news coming out to say that it was a function of, market forces that determined this new increase, right? Even though he came all out to also say they have a 32-day supply, the enemy has a 32-day supply of fuel, but this is what it is, a realization on us that the fuel price is really skyrocketing, especially in rural communities. Yes, the fuel stations are filled with products, but no gas in the fuel stations, not even just Abuja, but other parts of the country. Then moving on, let's see some other stories that broke this week. Where federal government coming out threatening to sanction trade associations that hike the prices of food items. That is according to CEO of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, Babatunde Irukera. He said trade unions had constituted Castro to engage in anti-competitive practices that have led to price gouging of basic food items. Well, it is what is expected. Like we always say, the river does not go through the forest without damn trees. I mean, it is a ripple effect. Moving on, let's see some other story. Yes, National Economic Council just yesterday agreed to implement a number of measures to help cushion effects of fuel subsidy removal. They include a cash award policy for public servants, improved funding of MEs, and massive investment in infrastructure. We're still waiting to see how these will pan out. And I talked about the ministerial list a while ago. Well, the Senator Representative Brasel had, come to brief journalists yesterday, saying about his emotion that he actually raised, but just touched on it to say that contrary to reports that he's saying on online platforms, that it is not true that the ministerial list is not in it. That was as at yesterday. But hopefully, looking at what the Constitution requires, the 60-day window where the citizens would nominate ministers. And from the look of things, if he assumed office on the 29th, that means he has until July the 20th. That's next week to do that. But let's just wait and see how that. Yes, also in the news, the Federal High Court ordering DSS to allow Nnamdi Kanu access to his to doctors of his choice and medical report. They also went on, that means also went on to say that these medical experts and whatever they're going to do must be supervised by the DSS. That was there was one story that went via the Court of Appeal coming out to fault a report on the purported resignation of member of the Presidential Election Petition Court. All right, and his name is Justice Bolokoromo Ugo. Hope I got that name correctly. Right, the reports had gone viral that he signed, but they say it's not true. Then, lastly, the Supreme Court, rather INEC, coming out to recognize the Youth Party, that is YP, as a political party. It was the Supreme Court ruling that saying that they should be recognized as a political party. And that was only disclosed by INEC's National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, statement yesterday. So, the big stories this week. Joining us, that took a whole ride. Joining us on the show today, we have Desmond Utove, Fresh News. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Fidel.
And of course, we have Cosmos Ebonobi, senior analyst. We call him the Ohamade. He writes for the Authority newspaper. Good morning.
Thank you, Fidel.
All right, let's go back to this one. I just read out a whole number of stories. Yes, you must have heard about one or two. We just missed a few, but these stories are broke. If there's any big story from your end, let us delve into all of these issues in nitty-gritty.
No, I think you've done justice to what happened during the week. I'm not sure you actually missed any out. Basically, the ministerial list that has been expected is triggering discussions across the country. The price increase is for me like the biggest. Really, maybe something you missed out might just be that Mesoma eventually apologized to Jam.
Yeah.
During the week, which kind of put pay to everyone to say about that particular incident. For me, that was an unfortunate event. It only shows that our kids need to be properly guided. She must fall into some wrong hands because she's a brilliant young girl.
She got 262.
Yes,
that's not easy.
That is not easy for most kids these days. If you also have comportment, composure, delivery, if she's talking, you know that she's a brilliant young girl. But sometimes brilliance is not enough. We also mold the character, which is what is now the responsibility of both the parents, the school, and the society, to make sure that she's not allowed to exhibit the negative side of knowledge. Maybe the other children who probably must have been doing who still may want to do this, let this be a deterrent to all of them. I also want to employ Jam. There seems to be some level of pretense on her part, and the need for Jam to maybe tamper justice, if you don't mind,
yes,
and reverse the ban on Mesoma. Are we trying to promote what is wrong? No, but even for God, we still have room for repentance.
Well, she may not need to write Jam, and then she got to 62. So many institutions, definitely, that's good enough.
So all we need to do is to catch her young and make sure we mold her in the direction that be pleasing to the society. Otherwise, increase.
No, let's pause. All right, we just took some of your big stories down, knowing that we left out this Mesoma Ejikeme, the girl who said she got 362, I think, or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Of course, eventually came back to reverse that she had 262, and perhaps Jam had actually banned her from that exam for about 3 years and all of that. But she's come out, like Jam also demanded, that she makes an apology, an open apology on that, and let's hope that she wouldn't need to Jam again. But this is not to say, like Desmond has also posited, that we are giving props to irregularities and all of that. Let's just try and do it. Hopefully she gets into a university with that 262. Cosmos, about some of your big stories this week.
Okay. You mentioned National Economic Council meeting yesterday, but you didn't that they resolved that yesterday to do away with what they call National Social Register, which last administration used to in transferring funds to people. So according to them, that register lack credibility, and they're not here to say state governors generate,
even local governments,
not to generate their own
list.
So it means that the so-called 8,000 collective, you have to go before it comes, because you have to take governors some time to generate. Nigerian way of doing things. You may even have a more list And at the end of it, this money may not get to the targeted people. And I always tell you, I always say here, that this money will not go the way of others. It's also seen as money for the boss, honey pot for people to dip and eat and get away. So we have seen the past, and from the look of things, this what Buhari administration is transferring to people is now tenable. It has to be investigated.
You have also picked holes in the list that should come from government, because state governments that but to come up with that list, don't you think the same way they've picked holes in this one, that's the same way you're going to put that?
Another government will come carrying a different lens to look at that and could also tell us this is a bad one.
But since it's really, really urgent, what do you think is going to take time? You have state government, have local councils and all of that. How difficult can that be?
If they have this data base before now.
How many days does it take?
It's just like taking a census. You have to give order. The order have to come from someone up to this.
Who's going to fund that?
In fact, the funding of that
allocation?
The funding of that project will definitely eat into whatever government is going to release for this very project. I know how this government official could be. You may discover that at the end of the day, you money, gathering this data that they want you with as palliative.
Because also looking at that story yesterday, talking about the National Executive Economic Council, apart from cash awards, policy for public servants, improved funding of SMEs. This really
cash awards
sounds bogus.
It sounds bogus. I always have my doubt, and I know some other Nigerians, they have their doubt. We hardly get more of these things right because of the motive, because of the people you put to implement of this policy. If Buhari's own administration could do away with their own system, saying that it lacks credibility, how much more what we have on ground today?
All right, so we've already started from this platform talking about the National Economic Council arrangement. Now, what better ways can we actually get the authentic number of people who should benefit from this 8,000?
We have to be very honest first. Our leaders have to be very honest. You remove peace from every other thing you're doing. Get it right. They could add the communities, various communities, give you the list of authentic list of people that are poor.
Now, you're talking about the list. Are you talking about parents? Are you talking about should it be every household?
In every village or community, yes. we know the people that are poor. We know the people. If it meant we have to determine who is poor, I don't know whether people that earn less social amount. But we in the village have ways of knowing who is poor.
How do you know who is poor?
We know. When you see a poor person, you will know. When you see a poor person, you know.
But that can be deceptive. Look can be deceptive.
Look can be deceptive. But as in the village, we know people. For instance, if you lay 500 naira, they cannot. When you decide to come to their house to take something, they will allow you to take because they don't have it. You know them in the community. So you have the community head to help in drawing this list. They get closer to something credible.
And Desmond, don't you think this, looking at ways to determine who, coming up with an authentic list, you think this would defeat the original purpose of just getting, take longer than necessary?
It's going to take a long time now, from I can see from here. But like we were talking about data and targeting, they are usually very important thing and difficult, particularly in our climate where you don't have really valuable data for usage. I think it's something that we really need to invest in. We need to pay attention to what the NS is doing, National Bureau of Statistics. We need to give them more funds. We need to give them maybe responsibility. I know government will come and government will go. Sometimes they set up different kinds of structure and all that. But I think the National Bureau of Statistics really needs to be empowered.
What do you mean by, hold on, when you say empowered more, what do they really do? Maybe just see figures and all of that. Apart from that, what do they really do? What do they need more funding for? They've been funded. Because we keep talking more funding.
Well, I said expanded responsibility, all right? That comes with more funds. Definitely, yes, you have to give somebody whatever it needs to get this done. If that is not already captured, because we need data to be able to work. You can't plan properly in a country where you have data. Now we are talking about poor. There's been so much discussions, controversies about who is poor, who is not poor. And if three of us go now, the three of us in this studio now, go out there to identify poor people, we probably might come back with different set of people from the same crowd of people who are, all right? It now depends on how we are evaluating these people and who we think is poor and who is not poor. And the term poverty is also relative, right? There are people who have money, but will never spend. There are those who hand in assets, as in maybe not go cash and all of those. So it's relative when you talk about party. But I think the government needs to set the terms very clearly for people to. This is the yardstick for trying to get these poor people in the society. Is a very, in fact, biggest of the responsibility, much more than the money to be spent. Otherwise, money will go into the wrong hands. We are all really scared of it. The intention is right to want to give people some tips because of the hardship that the increase in pump price has brought upon most Nigerians. We need to be very, very systematic, methodological, and decisive in giving this to the people at the end of the day. Now that we are into the states affairs too, that they may not be as detailed as they would want to be at the federal level. Then you just have to roll. However you do it, there might be errors as long as man is involved.
Thank you so much. I must acknowledge some of the first set of messages we're getting. Miss Omar got 249 and not 262, but I think 240 is good enough to get into a university. All right. Thank you so much, guys. For that actually means that you're following the show. Let's go back now to. Should we start the ministerial lists?
Have we exhausted this on fuel?
There are so many. No, we'll talk about the fuel stuff. All right. Okay, let's talk about the fuel stuff because it was actually on Tuesday.
There was something very, very fundamental when you are talking about people.
Yes.
Soludo, who briefed the media after that NEC meeting, said bulk of these people are bankable. To transfer this money to a bank.
You can't.
Even when you the list, you cannot also transfer to them. So it means that this
you have them cash
is already bound to fail.
If they are not bankable, that means you need to give them cash.
Yes. And again, the people, when you say you want to give cash, the cost of transporting themselves to where that will be administered to them is half of that money. So I don't know why we are so about this 8,000 naira cash give to people. There are other ways to spend this money that will act on these same targeted people.
Right.
Cash, to me, it's not economic, good economic policy.
And that thing is supposed to run for 6 months, July to December. And if you say that the states should rate the list of people poor, then we might be able to actualize. I mean, it is very possible that nobody will get at this month.
Favoritism in the process.
Yes.
All right. Even if you use the local heads, the communities, there will still be favoritism. Yeah. There's always going to be controversy around it. That's why I said tax is the biggest and it is the most difficult assignment to embark on. For you to identify the poor people, somebody is going to tell you that my brother is poor, my sister is poor.
Yes.
At that level, you are no longer objective in your judgments, all right? Compassion may also in. So there are so many factors that influence targeting. We have a big responsibility. That is why I said we need to work data. By data, without knowing what everybody earning, all right? We've tried to do things like BVN and all of those things, all right? I think we need to bring everybody in this very basket. So that with data, the bio of everybody, all right?
That worked during the cash crunch. I mean, even artisans had to open bank accounts.
Yes, we need to continue that light, all right? So that we'll be able to know what people earn and what people spend and all of that. Until you have that, just keep running around this circle and we'll be very definitive.
Well, my guests in the studio seem to think that this is thought out. I mean, it might be down to you giving cash by hand, and even if you don't do that, assessing the way you're going to get cash definitely may be a major problem. But let's be optimistic that things will get on. But I doubt if we can get the first payment by the end of July, which was actually the time. If we're going to do 6 months, it's definitely supposed to start at the end of July. But now they're telling you come up with your own list. Let's see how it will go. I mean, I don't know how long that take. If you can take within now and 2 weeks, like proposed, that means we are into the month of August. And will they benefit this? We don't know. Well, we'll take our very first break show. Just in case you want to join us, please do feel free. The numbers to send your messages to would be 0809-993-0137. Once again, 09-993-0137. All the lines are. I don't know if we can take today, but let's see. Let's mistake. Who knows? We might just be able to take all or two. But we'll delve into the nitty-gritty. After the break, we shall be talking about the increase in fuel price from 537 naira to 610 in all NNPC mega stations in the country. We woke up to that today, and of course, the GMD of the NN had come out to say that it is a function. In fact, the new price was being determined by markets. When will the market forces review downwards? We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the elusive ministerial list. This will come on the bottom line after this. Stick around.
My name is Elder Emma Ogoro. I'm interested in rebuilding my nation. So I have to join the beginning of cleaning of the environment. The Ghanaian environment here is totally filthy and healthy for people. So when Mayor Fortune decided that Abuja should come out, I decided to join because it's for the good of people, our children, our wives, and our families. That's why I'm part of this group, so that I'll be part of those who have started the journey to rebuild Nigeria.
In case you are wondering, well, my name is Fortune, I'm the mayor of the FCT, and I am excited about this initiative. I believe it's going to be a big one. This is the first of many who are coming to your area very soon. So we expect you to come out, expect you to put your hands on the plow. It's high time we stop complaining. Let's get something done. If the government is refusing to do it, or they are overwhelmed because they can't do everything, let's do what we can do, and we hold them accountable for the rest. I think that's what this is about. It's not about politics, it's not about anybody. It's about people coming out to do what they believe they can do to help their society and the environment at large. That's the thrust for us, and that is why we are here. I'm excited, and I thank you for joining us. Thank you so much.
Nothing breaks the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. I do it every morning on Morning Crossfire from 9 a.m. on Nigeria Info 95.1, and I'm Fidel. Join the biggest conversation around the national politics every day. It is full of passion, and yes, covers the biggest politics and the stories that matter to you. You have all the reasons to find out what's going on in Nigeria and hear it differently. Let's talk. That's the way to go, even this morning.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Nwato. I'm the host of Hard Facts, and I bring the stories driving conversation every weekday here on 95.1 Nigeria for Hard Facts Show. I love to get your opinion and conjectures, but the facts you cannot dispute here on Hard Facts. Join me and let's talk.
I keep my sunny side up so they can see me from above.
Clearly, Nigeria Info, we are passionate, trustworthy, and confident. Thank you so much for stopping by. It is the bottom line where we'll take a look at some of the big stories that headlines. We are already 30 minutes in show, but let's quickly give voices to messages on WhatsApp. Akamatam FHA in Lugbe says, why are governments so obsessed with the sharing of money instead of investing in infrastructure that will see test of time and be of benefit to all, whether rich or poor? Who chooses make use of it? This one is from Nehura from Masokoro. It says, generating data for vulnerable households in Nigeria is not science. Let the village or community heads compile the list and forward same to the government. Your guest, Cosmos, is on point. The Igbo system makes identification of every local very easy. This method can be used in generating the population of Nigeria at the very little cost. All right, thank you so much. Becky says, hi everyone, this one has issue with JAM. Parents should reduce their too much expectations on children. The pressure to win or succeed at all costs does not affect only the child, but everyone else. She's cute. She just needs a push to mold her character in the direction. By the way, Castro, show is not always regular. Why? So don't miss it. It is always. Maybe sometimes you mistake Thursdays for Fridays or vice versa. But the show is always regular, right? So much. This one is, you can see the subsidy is gone. Instantly, it left. But if it's coming, a lot of shenanigans, vexing back and forth. 1 month later, APC will thank you very much. Okay. From Ishak, I believe conjure cards from President Boko Long. Try to go from time. I've said we are in the apostle different plan has become here to that skills transportation and some more people. Thanks so much, Nikki. From Apostle says, good morning. What happened to the modular refineries initiated by former President Shibajo when he visited Nigeria in the last administration? This one says, Collins says, this from Mina says, good initiative by federal government. No, Nigeria's system is crumbled. Policy is dead on arrival. Lack of this corruption will hamper its progress and feasibility. That's your take. All right, thank you. Then this one said, my name is Osh from Abuja. This one is, what definition of government using to determine the poor? Poor is like hairstyle. It always changes. Great show. Thank you so much. Noted. Still talking about the 8,000 naira that might end up creating palaver. But let's take a look at another side of this before we delve into the fuel hike, the price in pump price. I mean, the hike in pump price fuel. Now that subsidy is gone, I'm just thinking it means we are no longer paying for subsidy. What happens to the monies that would be good from not paying subsidy? Can we divert it to fixing of these refineries? Because if an engineer friend told me that to do a maintenance, a cycle is usually 3 years. I really don't understand it. What would these monies be used for now that we're no longer paying subsidies? Or should it be used for?
Yeah, we have started on a very road by this so 8,000 palliative. I think it's from that same savings.
The 500 billion from the central budget?
Definitely is going to be funded what will generate from the subsidy removal.
Oh,
so that's where the money is coming from. So, and we had it on record, we spend over 400 billion monthly on subsidy.
So which means Nigerians will now share 8,000 from the subsidy money.
Yes, that's the thinking of the federal. That's the idea. That's the idea. But some economists are saying that instead of sharing money, economy survive by sharing money. Government is not Christmas. Use that money to do something. Just like when we had the PTF. Is it PTF under Buhari?
Yeah.
Fund. Is it not 2% of the budget? And Buhari was able to use that money. Get some roads done. Until today, you can see that road. Every other person is using that. You can as well say, okay, you are targeting one road or one project in each of these 36 states of the federation from the earnings from this subsidy removal. So that will also be carried along to say this is where money is going though. And if we are not saving this money, we couldn't have done this. Thank you for that. But to say you want to be, I want to tell you at the end of the day, we can as well spend more money we are wasting on subsidy on this same so-called part. Then who is cheating who?
But from that 819 supplementary budget where 500 billion was given to the Ministry of Finance, some amounts were actually budgeted. And to the Ministry of Works to fix some of these roads.
Well, I just said this should be part of it. I just said it should be part of. There should be some targeted projects. Nigerians should be able to. This is what this subsidy savings were used for.
Nigerians are groaning. The fuel basic is 670.
And the thing you mentioned here, you said the federal government warned about some of this trade union or whatever that intend to increase the price of commodities. And the same government told us that the interfair price was informed by Moses.
Yes.
The same market forces also apply.
Yes.
In some of the areas.
It will definitely trickle down.
In our lives.
It will trickle down, definitely.
It's a chain reaction.
And we are seeing realization now. But Desmond, the CEO of the NNPC, Kyari, says it was determined by market forces, even though he did not just give us down of what's really happening. Do you believe what he's saying? 5.7, 6.17, when the black market is also booming, What happens to people in what happens to people in Uromi? What happens to people in
Must you include me?
Yes, I'm just saying, what happens to people? Because if we can get it at 617, the fuel station, ghost houses, ghost towns right now, nobody's going. What happens to the people? Do you believe what he's saying, that is being deterred by market force on one hand, and we have a supply that will last for 32 days?
Okay, if you just permit me, I want to quickly add my voice to you. Ask about what happens to the money that have been paid for subsidy.
Then when you touch, you just move over to this question.
I want to hazard a guess. That the government may have saved money, and this money is now reflecting a federal account allocation to sharing. All right, that means the government should have more money to spend, developments, and even the states at the subnational level should also have money. I was just checking what the sharing, what was distributed to federal and states in the last 3 months. All right, in June, after the subsidy was removed, the federal and the state 786 billion naira. That was what they had to share. All right, it so have gone up in May. That was what was shared. In June, it went up to 907 billion naira. All right. In August, July. All right. What said here is 1.95 trillion. So it means that there's actually savings, all right, from this removal of subsidy, and we free some funds for developments, right? We may not have started feeling this, but I want to believe that very soon we'll start feeling the impact of the removal of subsidy. What is complaining today because of the impact, the effects on the ordinary man, because the moment you remove subsidy, price of fuel goes up, and once it goes up, it affects everything and everybody across, and the poor. In fact, everybody is complaining. I am personally, because I have to spend more money buying, all right? As an entrepreneur, for example, you spend more money on different areas because you have to fuel your generator to your office. If NEPA doesn't give it, you have to run the cars. You have to so many things, all right? Cost of running businesses have also gone up just because of subsidy removal. But to me, it looks like a sacrifice I have to make because that seems to have gone. I'm not sure that this administration is going to subsidy again. So we're beginning to find a way to live with it. Talking about what the NNPC generally said, that is market forces that are affecting all of this. I think it's true, market forces, but we have to start looking at how is it high. For example, if you look at the landing cost, the first thing you have to consider when we talk about market forces, how much landing costs as at May? How much is the landing cost today, July? All right?
You're bringing in the exchange rates.
That's what I'm going.
Yes.
So if you look at that, you look at how much was dollars at May and how much is dollar now. So the challenge we're having with the increase in dollars, we were spending so much money as a country defending the naira for 8 years, all right, under the administration. They felt that was the best policy the government could put in place. But this administration has also looked at it and said, no, they can't continue like that. They decided to foot the currency. So they all have the bad side, all right? If you on anything, you must be ready to go with advantages and disadvantages.
Definitely.
The disadvantages of the current policy is that we are not able to manage how high or low the currency is because it's also subject to the import and export window. Okay, how much do we export? How we import? Nigeria is not an export country. We import almost everything. So the solution to all of this at the end of the day, just to cut a long story short, is to now start producing more and exporting until with that. I foresee a situation where the dollar may keep going up because it's earning more foreign exchange, all right, to force down the prices of the dollar. The government should move into encourage Nigerians to produce more, kind of promote what they used to call the ease of doing business, to be able to do business and support them with some incentives, all right, extent that we can be sufficient in some of the goods that we consume locally and start exporting some of these things out. The only thing we literally export from Nigeria at the moment is petroleum product, which is crude oil, all right, which is supposed to be a blessing to us. But unfortunately, because the refineries are not working locally, we export at a lower price and import higher price. And by the time we are importing into the country, the dollar exchange rate would have affected it and eroded all the profit and benefits that would have.
All right, that brings us to the next line of action, or the next point, which is setting a cabinet It is very, very important now that we set up a cabinet to look into some of these areas. Yes, we have parts when it comes to economic issues of that, and this is where we need the cabinet to be set up. Yes, now the dollar is really huge, over 820. This week at some point it went straight to 830 but it's over 800 naira. Where we are right now, the dollars versus the naira. We're talking importing, we're talking about earning enough foreign exchange, and of course we're talking BDCs, so economic challenges that we'll face, and there's been back and forth with the realists. Yes, we know it is within the time frame by law that within the time frame of the the list you can, but as it stands right now, must wait till the 60-day to send in the ministries. And do you think, some people have said it's unconstitutional to send in this with a portfolio, just bring in a bunch of experts and ask them questions, then give them their points and all of that. Must it take this long? Some have argued that since you were a winner before you were eventually sworn in, definitely there would have been, names, in mind and all of that. 60 days is the time. Yeah. And judging by the fact that we are in a rat race, that should even stain the submission of the ministerial parliament.
Before I to your question, let me just add one thing here. Some of these things, with speaking economical, it is avoidable. The greatest disappointment that we had in the last administration was their inability to revamp some of these refineries. And that was one of the campaign promises. Once they come into office, this refinery will go into full capacity. And if that is full capacity, we shouldn't be talking. And when you said we are blessed with product, it's just for us to crack here, then meet our domestic need, then export.
Unfortunately,
but why, after years, these refineries are tomatoes? Something is wrong. Somebody is promoting this importation as against reverse. These are the basic questions we should ask. Why are we more interested in importing rather than, just like you mentioned, license these Nigerians to build
modular refineries?
What is there? Why would you also meet it to Dangote? Dangote already commissioned a plant already.
So Dangote was not the only person that was giving us
so these are the issues.
But it's just that people didn't eventually turn up.
About your question on the ministerial list, it is easier to listen outside the system. Part of the campaign promises again by this administration is that when they hit the ground and run it. And it's very unfortunate that getting 2 months, there's no cabinet in place to even drive some of these places, or even do it with the so-called some of the policies of the last administration, which I describe as landmine for this movement. So once you don't have that in place, some of these ministries are just there existing. Nobody is taking decision. That's the Nigerian system for you. The permanent secretary is there, but you cannot certain policies. Some of these policies of the new administration. So we must not wait for these 3 days. If a government that really was prepared to hit the ground according to them, by now have a picture of the type of cabinet, the type of people we are looking for. During your campaign, you see all these men. They're not going to import them. You know who to fit into. You should name them in the first 2 weeks. At least attach portfolio to them. Now, you want to go more of the technocrats. You know who are the technocrats. We know them. We know their profile. Government cannot claim ignorance of these people. They are fool. There are many of them there. So if we are to delay this time, by the time you bring in these people now, the Senate that will confirm them, will
screen them.
We hurriedly screen them again. There's no portfolio attached. They will just be asking questions, guesswork. You just bring in somebody that is a technocrat to start asking our spouse. Because you that maybe they may send him to sports minister. So this is part of the problem. If you are bringing a technocrat and maybe you attach Minister of Finance, if that economic problem should be should ask every other questions about me to the person and should give us a clear view what you intend to do in that office. You hold him accountable. But you bring in people who don't even know names and what have you, what they were able to do, slump them together, and then begin to hit the Senate behind, stampede them to confirm them within 2 weeks, and everybody will go.
Well, let's go to the way and manner. Some of these ministers are screening them happen every other 4 years. You bring in somebody, for instance, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, just an example. And because you don't know, you have the CV basically, but you don't have an idea which ministry she might head. You just want to ask questions at random. Should the performance of these nominees determine their capabilities. Let's look at the manner which
in their field.
No, not in their field. I'm just saying, for instance, you Kunje Wela, who we know is an economist. Yeah. Now, you just ask general questions and you say she head Ministry of Sport, for example, like you mentioned. Now, what I'm asking is the question, the way they screen them, does it in a way tell the true ability of these nominees? That's one. And I mean, should portfolios, I know that is unlawful, should portfolios be asked so that it will start as a guide, to the manner of questions they should be asked?
You see, some of these things is like we're just going around the circle. I think the National Assembly has a responsibility here. They just may not have it. You see, in 2015, the former president didn't come up with his ministerial leave until about 6 months, right? Mm-hmm. The Assembly corrected that to some extent. They have the powers. Now, I understand that it is in the law books that you have to submit yours within 60 days. The National Assembly did that. The National Assembly can also legislate and say you have to attach the portfolios of whoever or whichever nominee you are sending to the Assembly for confirmation. They have the powers. We have 3 arms of government, for God's sake, and we must not allow everything to flow from the executive. The difference between military era and destiny is National Assembly, the legislature. They are the ones to set the standard here. So they should go and legislate. Now you are sending names to us. We don't want to be adding guess and thinking of we're going to send and ask the wrong questions and all of that. Send us the names with their portfolio. That should be in the books. In addition to that, if you must transfer a minister as in from one ministry to the other, all right, you have to with recourse to the National Assembly so that you don't also deceive the National Assembly by sending a name that the person for Ministry of Works, for example, end of the day, you make him Attorney General. That happened during Obasanjo, where the same Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala you just made as well, all right, was moved in answer to foreign affairs. So these things are things that we should start legislating for. If laws are not there, people can act however they want to act. So we cannot take this responsibility away from the National Assembly. The onus lies on them to set the pace, to set the standard. We have a brand new assembly now, all right? Let them redefine what we do in Nigeria. It's always blaming the executive. Has the executive done everything right? They may not have done everything right, but there's a responsibility with the National Assembly.
Right, just before we go, the National Assembly will be going on recess next week. Next week, Thursday at the most. And if the ministerial list touches, because they'll be away for 8 weeks. Sorry, for 8 weeks, that's true. If the ministerial list touches or reaches the National Assembly, do you think they would have done a thorough job screening and confirming them before they go on? Just have 2 minutes.
Just like I said, we have this practice in the past. They send it, they now sponsor some ITOP and begin to hit the national as if that the people delaying the ending. So you should also give them more time to scrutinize this list.
They are going on recess.
They are going on recess. That's the sad aspect of the whole thing. Must
they go next week? They shift it for another week or 2?
It's not Castro.
That means they can stay back.
Let me tell you something. Sorry,
I have to go and maybe recall. And that's the additional money.
But the country needs to move forward as fast as possible. They need to hit the ground running. Why should they go on recess next week? Why don't they wait for another week, an additional week to screen them?
They are running a calendar. They are running a calendar.
No, is the calendar more than the lives of Nigerians?
Laws are for men and not men for laws.
They are on recess. You can't stop it.
Understand the concept of recess. They must move the country forward. We should wait at their instance. Law is made and not the other way around.
People to blame first the executive.
Okay, now that we know we can blame them, what happens if the National Assembly
can make the 2 days?
Okay.
They can make the sacrifice to maybe shift their
they should.
But you should not also make the impression to now begin to incite the public against the National Assembly.
Inciting them.
They have done it before. Done it many times.
I think
they will not tell you that National Assembly that is delaying the confirmation.
But obviously, I would say that because I mean, if the list eventually hits the National Assembly next, what's one more week? Just say one more
and just get this thing done.
Get it done and you for 10 weeks.
Fidel, if we must build a Nigeria that we all want, we have to start first of all by building stronger institutions. I keep saying this very thing. The problem we have in Nigeria is that we have weak institutions. All right? If the executive has not sent in the list, all right, it's because he's working within a time frame. He feels that, okay, within 60 days, I still do this thing. If the laws say that you have to do this within 1 week
of your resumption, all right, I am sure he would have worked on this within that 1 week. Even to send a name and change it eventually.
All right,
right? So we have to start building strong.
They need to go. Biodu, from here, I get you. You were saying that stressing on the need to attack. We are hoping that the presidency would attack the portfolios. But if the list in National Assembly next week, it won't be a bad idea. National Assembly, even though they're supposed to go on recess next, stay another week, do the thing, and make sure that we have ministers. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll come back next week. Next week Thursday.
Okay.
Next week Friday.
Yeah, that
guy
customer. Guy is right after all.
Nothing the news like the news. Trust me, I can prove it. I do it every morning on Morning Crossfire, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Nigeria Info 95.1. I am Femi D. Ahmed. Join the biggest conversation around the national politics every day. It is trustworthy, full of passion, and yes, covers the biggest politics and the stories that matter to you. See, you have all the reasons to find out what's going on in Nigeria. Think differently. Let's talk. That's the way to go, even this morning.
Hello, my name is Fidel. I'm the host of Heart, and I bring you the story.